Namaste, dear learners. Today we will discuss a poem called The Unknown Citizen, which is prescribed for BCom first semester, Rani Channamma University, Belagavi. And I am Basavaraj Bidgi, Assistant Professor of English, GFCC Yargatti. The Unknown Citizen is one of Auden's most famous poems. The poem is renowned for its wit and irony in complaining about the stultifying and anonymous qualities of bureaucratic semi-socialist Western societies. The poem speaks about the autocratic and despotic rules of Western societies and how the governments have control over the common people of its nation. The poem's structure is that of a satiric elegy. The poem is a kind of elegy which goes on satiring the government and the bureaucratic policies of that particular government. Unknown Citizen was so utterly unremarkable that the state honored him with a poetic monument about how little trouble he caused for anyone. The present poem is about an unknown citizen who did not cause any trouble for anyone in his entire life. Now we will discuss something about the poet W.H. Auden, whose full name is Wisdom Hugh Auden. He was an English poet, playwright and critic. He influenced a lot on the poetry of 20th century. His first book, Poems, was published in the year 1930 with the help of another important 20th century poet, critic, dramatist and philosopher T.S. Eliot. And W.H. Auden emigrated to the United States of America just before the World War II. He won the Pulitzer Prize for The Age of Anxiety in the year 1948. The poetry of W.H. Auden is concerned with moral issues, and the poems are a good evidences of a strong political, social and psychological context of 20th century. The notable works of W.H. Auden are Funeral Blues, which is about love. It is a love poem, and September 1, 1939, it is a poem about political and social themes. The Shield of Achilles is also about political and social themes. The Age of Anxiety is a poem which deals with cultural and psychological themes. The Unknown Citizen is a poem written by W.H. Auden in the year 1939. The present poem is written in the year 1939, shortly after he moved from England to the United States. The poem is written when W.H. Auden was in America or the United States of America. The poem was first published on January the 6th, 1940 in the New Yorker. The poem appeared in an anthology called Another Time. The poem is the epitaph of a man identified only by a combination of letters and numbers. The present poem is an epitaph, which is a combination, and the person of the poem in the poem can be identified only by the combination of letters and numbers. The unknown citizen is described entirely in external terms from the viewpoint of government organizations such as the fictional Bureau of Statistics. The speaker of the poem concludes that the man had lived an entirely average, therefore exemplary life. The governments consider exemplary life only the person who leads an average life. The present poem is a satire of standardization at the expense of individualism. The poem talks about standardization and it puts the individualism of that person to the pyre. Now we will read the poem and go on discussing the poem line by line. The Unknown Citizen. The title of the poem itself tells about the absurdity of the poem, because the title is Unknown Citizen, but the government knows everything about that particular citizen. The poem begins with an epitaph that reads like this: to JS 07 M378. This marble monument is erected by the state. The poem itself is a marble monument which is erected by the state in honoring the unknown citizen of the poem. He was found by the Bureau of Statistics to be one against. There was no official complaint. We find that there was no official complaint about the unknown citizen because he did not raise his voice at any time of his life. ಅವ ತನ್ನ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂದಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಸರ್ಕಾರದ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ಬಿರುನುಡಿಯನ್ನು ಆಡದೇ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದರಿಂದ ಅವನ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತಹ ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಇಲ್ಲ. And all the reports on his conduct agree that in the modern sense of an old-fashioned word, he was a saint. All the reports, psychological, health, and statistics department reports about this unknown citizen prove that he lived life of a saint. ಅವನು ಕೂಡ ಒಬ್ಬ ಮಹಾಪರಿತ್ಯಾಗಿಯಂತೆ ಎಂತಹ ಜೀವನವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸಿದ ಅಂತ the poet, the speaker says. For in everything he did, he served the greater community. Throughout his life, he dedicated himself for the upliftment of the greater community. ಸಮಾಜದ ಒಳಿತಿಗಾಗಿಯೇ ತನ್ನ ಜೀವನವನ್ನು ಮುಡಿಪಾಗಿಟ್ಟಂತಹ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ದ ಅನ್ನೋನ್ ಸಿಟಿಜನ್ ವಾಸ್. Except for the war till the day he retired, he worked in a factory and never got fired. Except the time of war, he worked very properly, very loyally in the company in which he worked, and he did not got fired. ಅವನು ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಕೂಡ ತನ್ನ ಕೆಲಸದಿಂದ ವಜಾ ಮಾಡಿಸಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ, because he did not question his employer. He did not raise his questions about salary, and because he did not raise questions about the freedom he was enjoying in the factory, but satisfied his employers. Pudge Motors Inc. He worked in a company called Pudge Motors Inc. and wherein he satisfied his employers, and yet he wasn't a scrap or odd in his views. Even though he lived life of a saint, he wasn't a scrap or odd in his views. He did not have odd views about the government or about anything that comes into his life. For his union reports that he fed his dues, because he did not have any dues throughout his life. He paid the taxes properly, and he did not question the tax paying. He gave the tax, and he did not have any dues. Our report on his union shows it was sound, and our social psychology workers found that he was popular with his mates and liked a drink. At the same time, social and psychology departments have given a report wherein they did find that he was friendly with his colleagues, co-workers, and he liked a drink. The press are convinced that he bought a paper every day. This unknown citizen, like all the other people, bought newspaper every day, and that his reactions to advertisements were normal in every way. And he had normal reactions to the absurd advertisements which are there in the newspaper. ಆ ಪತ್ರಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುವಂತಹ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತಹ ಜಾಹೀರಾತುಗಳಿಗೆ ಅವನು ಹಾರ್ಷಾಗಿ ಪ್ರತಿಕ್ರಿಯೆಯನ್ನು ವ್ಯಕ್ತಪಡಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಿ ವಾಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಪೇಪರ್. ಪಾಲಿಸೀಸ್ ಟೇಕನ್ ಔಟ್ ಇನ್ ಹೀಸ್ ನೇಮ್ ಪ್ರೂವ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಹಿ ವಾಸ್ ಫುಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಶೂರ್ಡ್ and he took life insurance policies by which we can understand that he was economically sound, and his health card shows he was once in hospital but left it cured. Once he admitted to a hospital and left it cured. ಅಂದರೆ ಅವನು ಹಾಸ್ಪಿಟಲ್ಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದ, because he was a man of flesh and blood like me and you, like I and you people. That is the reason why he admitted to a hospital but left it cured. ಆರಾಮಾಗಿ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದಿರ್ತಾನೆ. Both producers, research and high grade living declare he was fully sensible to the advantages of the installment plan. There was a department which does research about the satisfaction level of the citizens of that particular country, and this unknown citizen, according to the reports of producers, research as well according to the reports of high grade living people, he was fully sensible to the advantages of the installment plan. Even though we lose a lot of money in installment plan, he was sensible to all those installment plans, and he had everything necessary to the modern man. The unknown citizen of the poem had all the necessary things for a modern man. Then what are the necessary things for a modern man? See, a phonograph, a radio, a car and a frigidaire. He had a phonograph, a radio, a car and a frigidaire, by which we can understand that he was living happily and he was economically strong, economically sound. He did not face any financial declines in his life. The government has put up an organization which does research on the life of individual, the life of common man, which is called as public opinion, and the Department of Public Opinion is content about this unknown citizen because that he held the proper opinions for the time of year. The Public Opinion Department is content of his behavior because he did not express his discontent over any policy of the government, and he did not have difference of opinions about with the government as well with his colleagues as well with his employers. When there was peace, he was for peace. When there was war, he went. This man did not question the government, and it did not bother him whether there is peace or war in the country. When there was peace, he lived silently, and when there was war, he went to fight in the battlefield without questioning the policies of the government and without questioning the intention of the war. ಯುದ್ಧದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ಚಕಾರವನ್ನು ಎತ್ತದೆ ಈ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಜೀವನವನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದ. He was married and added 5 children to the population. Like all the other people, he also got married and added 5 children to the population of the country. 5 ಜನ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನು ಹೆತ್ತು ಆ ದೇಶದ ಜನಸಂಖ್ಯೆಯನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆಸುವಲ್ಲಿ ಅವನೂ ಕೂಡ ತನ್ನ ಕೊಡುಗೆಯನ್ನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ. Which our eugenist says was the right number for a parent of his generation, according to the department which maintains records about the birth rate. His adding of 5 children to the population was very right, because of his generation the parents would add 5 children to the population of the country. And our teachers report that he never interfered with their education. And we also come to know that this person not only led an uneventful life, but also he was not interested in the kind of education his children were getting in the government schools. He did not question the teachers which were teaching his children, whether they were teaching his children good things or bad things, and he did not have interest in interfering with the education of his children. The next stanza contains 2 questions which are very important, which can be considered as rhetoric questions. Was he free? ಅವನು ನಿಜವಾಗಲೂ ಸ್ವತಂತ್ರವಾದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಜೀವನವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸಿದನು? ವಿ ಡು ನಾಟ್ ನೋ, ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ವೆನ್ ವಿ ರೀಡ್ ದ ಪೋಯಮ್ ವಿ ಕಮ್ ಟು ನೋ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಹಿಸ್ ಲೈಫ್, ಥ್ರೂ ಔಟ್ ಹಿಸ್ ಲೈಫ್, every moment of that unknown citizen were observed. Then how can he lead a life, pre-life? ಅವನು ಸ್ವತಂತ್ರವಾದಂಥ ಜೀವನವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸುವುದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇದೆ? ಇದು ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ವಾಸ್ ಹಿ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿ? ಅವನು ಸಂತೋಷವಾಗಿ ಇದ್ದನೆ? ವಿ ಡು ನಾಟ್ ನೋ. ವೈ? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ವಿಚ್ ವಿ ರೆಡ್ ಟಿಲ್ ನೌ states that he was very common, very quiet, very static. ಒಂದು ಕಲ್ಲಿನ ಮೂರ್ತಿಯಂತಹ ಜೀವನವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸಿದ. He led life of a saint. He did not enjoy life. He did not question life. He did not question the government. He did not question the system. And at the same time, we do not know whether he led a happy life or not. The question is absurd. ಅಬ್ಸರ್ಡ್ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಅಸಂಗತ. ಆ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕೇಳುವಂತಹ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆಯೇ ಇರುವುದಿಲ್ಲ. ವೈ? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಲರ್ನ್ಡ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ವಿಚ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಲೈಫ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ಅನ್ನೋನ್ ಸಿಟಿಜನ್. ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಬೀನ್ ರಾಂಗ್ ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ಸರ್ಟನ್ಲಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಹರ್ಡ್. ಒಂದು ವೇಳೆ ಇಫ್ the person had led a pre-life and if he had led a happy life, we should have certainly known about the reasons for his freedom and happiness. This is what the speaker says. The speaker in the poem representing the unknown citizen. The speaker might be a government worker who had access to all the information about that unknown citizen. The speaker is a government worker who goes on controlling the activities of the common people, at the same time who goes on interfering in the personal life of the common people. Today in modern century, we the people are always observed by CCTV cameras, and we can bring about a concept called Big Brother is watching us. Wherever we go, we are being watched by the government officials, the police, and wherever we go, we cannot ride past, we cannot drink, we cannot spit, we cannot do anything that is against the government. And the government which is at work in this poem is like a big brother which goes on observing all the activities of a common man. To conclude, The Unknown Citizen by W.H. Auden describes through the form of this a dystopian report the life of an unknown man. The poem adopts a dystopian form which describes the life of an unknown man. The poem also describes an average citizen through the eyes of various government organizations. The poem criticizes standardization and the modern state's relationship with its citizens. The poem speaks about the relationship between the states, the governments, and the citizens of that state or the subjects of that government. The unknown citizen of this poem at the end of the poem remains unknown. We learn only about the numbers and reports which are given by the various fictional organizations which are being set up by the state or by the government to observe the movements of the common man. Thank you very much.